stuck in a good cop, bad cop dynamic. Divide and conquer.
Behold, the atheist's nightmare.
Really resonated with me. As a light worker, clairvoyant, I could really relate.
All of a sudden, everybody that I knew was handing me pamphlets for yoga classes.
Actually, were compromised a long time ago.
And if Satan casts out Satan, how then will his kingdom stand?
Okay. Oh, that's not my hair. Okay, hi everybody. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you've been here before. If you haven't been here before, this part might not make that much sense, but bear with me. The trolls in my comment section on my last video, I just have this to say.
Ladies do not start fights, but they can finish them.
Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, I would like to kind of make a video about my own personal experiences with different types of spirituality, different religions throughout the years. I'm 34 years old now, and but it's okay. I'm in a really good place now. As I was deconstructing, like, no, you don't have to only watch Christian resources and stuff for entertainment. You're not confined to this little box of things that you can watch and enjoy. You can actually enjoy anything you want to with liberty, with Christian liberty. So once I started to branch out and experience more of other people's perspectives, as it does, it really widened my own, and I'm so glad that I was given the time and the patience by people around me to come to that place where I could kind of pull myself out of the whole the psychological pit that I was stuck in because of where Christianity had taken me, ultimately. Okay, I paused the annoying laundry sound in the background, so hopefully this part sounds better. I feel like every religion I've ever been in, no fault to the religion itself, just the way that I was brought into it, and something about my own psyche, probably. I've always kind of had a culty experience with them, and maybe that's just my bad luck. I wanted to kind of give an overview of these experiences that I've had and these different cults that I've belonged to in the past, and kind of compare and contrast those different experiences, and just kind of see what things were similar, and then what things were, how they were different, and the little ways that they were different. If you enjoyed hearing about any of my experiences today, or if you have your own experiences that you want to share down in the comments, feel free to do so. So yeah, with no further ado, I guess we'll get right into it. I started the year 2020 a conspiracy theory-minded, tarot-toting, Reiki curious, the world is a prison and spirituality is the way out, Gnostic-ish kind of person. Late summer of that same year, I did finally go get my Reiki attunements for my birthday gift to myself. It was like $120 or something like that to have this couple attune me, like they transferred this thing to me with symbols and breath.
That was like the worst explanation ever, so here's a better one by somebody who actually does it.
I'm a Reiki master. I do attunements. What happens during an attunement in particular? The facilitator, the Reiki master, we are opening your channels in the palms of your hands, in the center of your heart, and at the top of your head to now bring this Reiki energy through so that you can send it out.
And I wouldn't say that I believed in that sort of thing, or I wouldn't have openly said I did. I would have said that I'm open to it. But I went because I wanted to test it. I wanted to see what would happen, like if it's real or not, because I'd read so much about it. My previous cult, let's call it a cult. My previous cult that I was in really heavily pushed Reiki. The master, Laura, was a Reiki master and all that, so she was also getting paid to give attunements to people and stuff like that. Anyway, so I brought it home and I started doing it on the animals and all that stuff. And like my boyfriend at the time, he's my fiance now, but my boyfriend was like, I don't think it's doing anything. I don't really feel anything. Are you sure this works? I don't think so. And of course he was a Christian and didn't believe in any of that stuff. And I'm not sure how much he did believe that it was like of the devil or something, but he, in any case, didn't believe that it was real or would do what it purported to do. Right after that, like a week or two later, we had my boyfriend's brother had a terrible accident in our front yard, and he was in a coma for I think a couple of months total. I was reading the Bible and all this stuff, just desperation, God please hear us. But he made it. He woke up from his coma. The doctors were able to, to do surgeries and stuff to get him back to basically normal. At that time, I was transformed, I guess. I met Jesus. I met the gospel through a YouTube video. Can you tell that I like YouTube? I've been on here like 4 years now, and it's my favorite app. I really like it. But it was a YouTube video, probably Alexandra.
The two sides here, dark and light, work in a good cop, bad cop dynamic. The light side can step in to present the solution to the problem created by the dark.
And she was the bridge, I guess you could say, or this video was kind of the bridge in my head that carried me from my New Age conception. I wouldn't have called it New Age back then, but Helena Blavatsky, New Age kind of thing. It was the bridge that took me from that perspective over to the more, no, the gospel is exactly one thing and one thing only, and everything else is like fake gospel, fake Jesus that can't save you. So that's where I eventually ended up. It went on like this until late last year, probably 2023. I'd watch Fighting for the Faith, Melissa Doherty, Mike Winger, but over time, I slowly clicked on their videos less and less. I don't know, I'd get like a dreadful feeling when I would hover over it, and I'd be like, no, I'm not really feeling that today. I'm not sure I can handle that today. I'm not up for that, which that's how much it was affecting me. I guess I couldn't really watch anymore. Late last year, 2023, I started clicking on, sorry kitty, I started clicking on videos that didn't make me hate myself or the whole world, that didn't feel like they divided me farther, that made me feel good about being a human and about knowing other humans, and getting to know other humans and like living in a world with people, because people are okay, that kind of content drew me. B. Haney, I love B. Haney. Fundie Fridays, Jen, I'm a Jenanite, I put it on there so that any other Jenanites out there, I got you. Alyssa Grenfell, who is a ex-Mormon, kind of a newer influencer, but within the last year. And I started watching her content because I was researching the Mormons, which is its own other story. Anyway, and then these guys were all talking pretty extensively about cult control groups and like messy churches, just messy religious stuff that shouldn't be happening. I was also watching a lot of stuff about commercial cults, MLMs. There's all kinds of culty control system type things, and I just have a penchant for the dark side. I like studying that stuff, but the more that I studied about it, the more I learned what is it about a cult that makes it a cult? Like, what's this so bad about it? There's these indicators, and each one of these indicators are another thing that's so bad about it. As I was reading these things and coming into contact with these checklists or whatever, I'm like, wait a second, I believe that. I feel that way, like in my own belief system right now. And so I started to question the belief system itself, and as people started fighting with me on Facebook, which I'm off Facebook now, like I deleted the app, I don't need it anymore. It served its purpose, I guess, to make me mad enough to just leave and come to YouTube and just, we can just have a space here where we can just talk, and not yell at each other, and if anybody does that, I'll delete your comments, because you don't need to be that way. This is my the ball's in my court now, okay? The more I would like speak about things on Facebook and stuff, I would be like, guys, I now disagree about, I would start posting things like I disagree with the anti-LGBTQ church agenda. That in itself is a weird culty belief, like all by itself. You don't even have to be Christian to be in on that. It's kind of like use like the QAnon type tactic of getting like all the conservatives together even if they don't really have any similar beliefs at all, they can all agree on that, and that's scary, right? And the more that I would talk about that stuff, the more that Christians who previously had no problem with me now have a huge problem with me, and were just way out of line, acting like the way that people act on Facebook, because they know that they can sit behind a keyboard and be as cruel and mean and attack you personally as much as they want to, and nothing's going to happen to them. Okay, that's cute. Nothing's going to happen to them, right? So they do whatever they want. This deconstruction has been the most liberating thing in my entire life. This has been the most liberating time of my life. I feel for the first time my feet are set on the ground in a way that they've never been before. Like, you can't just push me over anymore. And I know that I believe in God, and I believe that God created the world and that he loves his creation. And beyond that, I don't have to believe anything anybody else tells me I have to believe. Because if it doesn't sit right with my spirit, then, you know, like, I'm not going to keep spreading rhetoric that's actively hurting people. It's got to stop. It's got to stop. We've got to be so much nicer and kinder. I feel like the first time in my life that I have complete liberty to do whatever I think is right to do, to choose when to be angry, when to be chill, when to be quiet, when to scream, when to laugh. Anyway, so let's talk about the beliefs I don't believe anymore and how they compare and contrast to each other. And maybe you'll find something out about your own religion that you know, maybe it'll just hit you. You'll be like, oh, wow. Yeah, I did that. Wow, I'm participating in that. Oh, man. It's fun. It's a fun exercise. It's good for you to self-reflect. So the 3 cults that we're going to compare and contrast today are the Cassiopean Experiment by Laura Knight Yadchik, Laura Knight Yadchik, and QAnon, kind of. I didn't know I was in QAnon until later when I found out kind of more about the movement. I kind of understood what it was, and I was like, oh, I guess I was in it a little bit. I was participating. I was following trans spotters and people like that on Twitter, back when I had Twitter, another app I no longer have, for reasons. And then the self-hatred cult that calls itself Reformed theology, Calvinism. I think these things are not interchangeable, but a lot of this stuff is believed by all of these groups together. Reformed Baptist, they all seem to agree on some basic tenets that all are a part of this self-hatred thing. Its own little special group that does not represent, in my opinion, all of Christianity, as no group is ever going to represent any whole religion, right? This group that is snowballing around the internet, Christian content creators, a lot of them seem to be in this, not all of them, but a lot of them seem to be, even unknowingly maybe, in it. But the QAnon thing is really interesting because I was a follower of the Cass experiment, not a believer, because that's not how it works, right? Like, we saw it as scientific, sort of, not scientific, but not in the sense of the scientific method, but scientific in the sense that we just saw it as the way the world is. I know. Okay. Anyway, QAnon acted as like the pipeline, pipeline, that once I started following that sort of stuff, I was funneled into this conservative Christian self-hating cult and kind of into the conservative Republican Party, sort of. I mean, I'm not really into politics necessarily, but yeah, I was kind of believing their rhetoric and agreeing with a lot of it. The way that QAnon acted as a pipeline was using everybody's fears about the state of the world at the time. They felt like the world was burning in 2020. I don't know if you guys remember the Panini and then the runs and like a bunch of stuff. Oh God. And I hate that I was on the wrong side of history in 2020. I'm sure that there's stuff on the internet I've said back then that I do not stand by today. I take it back. If you see that from me, I am so sorry. Anyway, the world was really bad, and so they were able to convince people that it's all because of the deep state and this, you know, the elites that want to eat your children. That they, you know, the world is so bad or whatever. You need Jesus. Okay, the world is so bad. You need Jesus. And they got me. I'm going to try and say this lady's name. I'm probably going to get it wrong. But according to Dr. Janja, Lalich, these are some of the signs. I'm not going to go over the entire list because this would be too long of a video. But these are some of the signs of your group. there will be an unquestioning and overly zealous commitment to the leader of the group. Okay, in the Cass experiment, it was Laura. She was the only one that could talk to the Cassiopeans, who could channel the Cassiopeans. She used a spirit board, which is kind of like a Ouija board thing, to communicate with them. And they even said in one of the transcripts that they could only talk to her. So, and then in QAnon, it was sort of vague and unclear for a while until it wasn't, and that was, of course, Donald Trump, of course, because he was the one who was going to sweep in and be the hero we all needed, the anti-hero that we all needed to fix the deep state, right? He was going to be president and get in there and fix it all. With the Christian cults, I would say that it's usually the church leader or leaders, but they use Jesus to claim that their right to rule over you and control your life was given to them by Jesus, like as a spiritual gift, kind of. So you just have to accept that. You would think it would be Jesus, but I think it's more the spiritual leaders that, I mean, the Bible does kind of hand them a lot of responsibility and a lot of control, authority. The unquestioning and overzealous devotion to those leaders, it's usually directed towards Jesus in the mind of the believers, but it ends up landing on the church leaders in all practicality, right? That's who on earth gets to benefit from that devotion. Another point is questioning, doubt, and dissent are discouraged or even punished. This one's pretty, I don't think I have to explain that very much. Like every one of these, I would say, in the Cassiopeian cult, it was more discouraged, but you could be punished. You could, if you disagreed with Laura, you could be kicked off of their forum. It was, I guess, mostly an online group, so there wasn't that much they could do, but there was bullying in there. I've seen a little bit of it, not to me, but I was a true believer, so you don't get bullied when you're a true believer, do you? Another one is mind-altering practices used in excess to suppress doubts about the group or about the leaders. And I would add to that also to bond the group together. When everybody goes in a trance together, it's an experience, right? And it bonds you guys. But I will say in the Cassiopean experiment belief system type thing, it was the entire smorgasbord of the New Age, New Thought movement, more of an advertising gimmick to some degree, I would say. These practices, we'll put it that way. Most of them shamelessly culturally appropriated, like meditation, out-of-body experiences, yoga, chants, channeling, even reading tarot could be a tool for this sort of thing. And then QAnon, I admit I didn't participate, but Q and people who followed Q or talked about that sort of thing would also, tout the benefits of hallucinogens, like hallucinogenic mushrooms, things like that. I've tried mushrooms a couple times. That's not really my thing. That's not really for me. But if you like them, that's fine. Live your life. In Christianity, this is pretty obvious. If you've ever been to a megachurch, if you've ever even been to a high-spirited Pentecostal church, then you know what this looks like. The church service itself is an exercise in group hypnosis, right? The way the pastor drones on and on, the music, he's trying to bring the whole service to like a crescendo, a big emotional crescendo, to bring everybody together, and then people start falling over, writhing, dancing, crying, like literally crying, speaking in tongues, of course. So I would say those count as those things. I was never comfortable with any of it. I've never been comfortable with that, but I'm also not really a joiner. I'm not a joiner, so if I was in the room with that sort of thing, it made me wildly uncomfortable, and I never went back. That's been my experience with that. And one of the reasons why, thank God, I didn't join any of these culty churches around me. Another thing that Dr. Janja Lalich mentions is that leadership has way too much control over how members should look, act, think, even how they should think, how they should feel. In Cassiopeia, can I just call it like the Cassiopeia cult? Because that's how I feel about it. In the Cassiopeia cult, this was very covert, but the whole system sneakily leads you to a black and white thinking and worldview, where Laura and the Cassiopeans are the true heroes, and almost everyone else is stuck in the Matrix. I started only reading books she recommended. I didn't go to college because of my fears of this matrix. They're just going to teach me lies. You know, what's the point? They're just going to lie to me. Isn't that sad? And then with QAnon, I would say that QAnon was also covert. They're very anti-LGBTQ. Everyone who dyes their hair a fun color is a stupid liberal, and all women should be trad wives with at least 10 babies. Again, in Christianity, this is pretty obvious. Purity culture is well known now for toxically controlling every aspect of men's and often especially women's lives. Like Q's values, but on crack. cracked out QAnon values, basically. The idea that women are responsible for men looking at them and enjoying it. Men and women have prescribed gender roles that are fixed, not up for debate. And no one is allowed to drink, smoke, gamble, party, have sex with anyone besides your spouse, or have sex at all in any position besides missionary with a partner of the opposite sex. Unless you don't tell anyone, or lie, cover it up, and gaslight everyone else into believing it didn't happen, or it was God's will. That's the one that gets me the most, is when what do I say? Okay. The group is elitist. The group is elitist. In Cassiopean cults, we were the ones who were awake. We were awake to the reality of hyperdimensional extraterrestrial beings controlling space and time to keep us locked up on Earth. The sleepers could be used by the agents of the Matrix to hurt the cause. In Q, the deep state was evil and people needed to wake up to Q's message. Christianity itself makes the boldest claim that all other gods and religions are false. Jesus himself chose everyone who follows him, and those who don't are seen as poor, fallen sinners who don't even know how bad off they are, and believers are directly tasked with going out and saving them by sharing the gospel. Another one of the points that the good doctor points out for us, that I think it was what was destroying my life, and it was the thing that began to wake me up every time. So is this time any different from any of the last times? I don't know. Time will tell. We'll see. But it is always me sitting here realizing, oh my God, us versus them. I did it again. And then I'm like, well, this is wrong, because here we go. Us versus them. I know that it's wrong if I'm thinking that way, because how could that be right? You've stopped being rational and you've started seeing the whole world as something. And it's impossible for the whole world to be something, because every single person is a million things, right? So yeah, you just can't simplify things like that. So the polarized us versus them mentality causes conflict with wider society. With Cass cult, we were awake and they were sleepers. So, they were asleep. Like it was hard to make friends like that when you can't really tell, if those people are on your side or not, or whatever. I don't know. QAnon, every person is either all good or all evil, which, as we just discussed, is impossible and completely irrational. You have lost the plot if you're thinking that, right? Christianity, I felt more divided than ever before. From the outside. I started to lose my compassion for people as I shoved the gospel at them anytime they had a problem. So we have the saved and the unsaved. We have the saints, those who have been saved by Jesus, and the sinners, everybody else. This us versus them is the root of all conflict. All conflict. All conflict. If you have a fight with your mom, it's because you think she's against you. It's you versus me. All wars are because of people thinking us versus them. Every little tiff you had with your neighbor, with anybody, ever. Another point is that the leader is not accountable to any outside authority. In the Cassiopean cult, the authorities, like, the governments, the police forces, all of those people are all part of the Matrix, part and parcel of the Matrix, so you can't trust them, right? No. When you think everyone could be an agent of the Matrix. In Q, again, the deep state is in part our American government, and we weren't going to help them out. Donald J. Trump running for president to pardon himself. Christian pastors and thought leaders rarely have to answer to any outside authority. Crime is actually rampant in church settings because they will try to deal with everything in-house to avoid scandal, and often choose to cover it up for the reputation of the institution. Another point that I wanted to talk about was the ends justify the means. Okay, so
I think you would agree, most premeditated acts of evil involve this sort of thinking. Well, the ends will justify whatever I have to do to make that happen, right? In the Cassiopean cult, the goal was enlightenment, accumulation of knowledge until you have enough, you grow into a higher density life form. So living this way, thinking anyone could be a part of them, anybody's one of these hyperdimensional beings, you know, in disguise. I gave up my life for that because the ends of growing into a higher density life form made this life not matter. So because this life didn't matter anymore, I can give it to the cause. In Q, we have people storming the White House because Biden won or whatever, and they thought Trump won, and they were like, no, you guys know all about that. The end goal being to put Trump in there, right? The ends would have justified the means, even though they did that violent act. They thought it's okay because once we get him in there, then there'll be no more need for violence, right? Isn't that what they all say? In Christianity, I think of Ray Comfort making people cry on the boardwalk.
So, Frankie, I'm not judging you, but you've just told me you're a lying, thieving, blasphemous, adulterate heart. You have to face God on Judgment Day. If he judges you by the 10 Commandments, we've looked at 4, you're going to be innocent or guilty.
Guilty.
Heaven or hell?
Hell.
Because he thinks they need to be saved from hell. Fair, I guess. But if there is no hell, he's just a guy harassing innocent people on a boardwalk, making them cry. But of course, they don't actually believe in innocent people. Nobody is innocent. Everyone already deserves hell until they're saved. Which leads us to it. The group that you need to watch out for also induces feelings of shame or guilt to influence and control members. In the Cassiopean cult, it was heavily implied that if we weren't doing the work, then we were automatically a part of the problem. Q induced this with making us think all the celebrities we liked were eating kids or whatever else. All the media we liked was designed to control us, etc., so on and so forth. In Christianity, it's obvious, again, because this is how they get you in the first place. So it's not weird when they keep doing it to keep you weak and codependent. Another one that I wanted to mention, this is the second to last one, and then we're going to call it good. Have to go all in, leaving family and former self behind. Cassiopeia definitely did this. Because becoming awake was to be like, oh, that's, you couldn't talk to anybody about this kind of stuff because it was aliens, hyperdimensional beings, cryptids, channeling, things like that. Like, even if you could find some people who thought some of those things were cool, it was hard to find anyone that thought all of those things were cool. And most people just thought you were crazy, so it was very isolating. And then Q just naturally drove healthy-minded people away until all that was left was the most extreme people believing the most extreme stuff. Christianity considers the unsaved as dangerous to be around, unguarded, if you're saved. Like they could influence you back into the world, or like their influence will take Jesus's influence off of you somehow. You are told to become a new creature and leave your former life behind, literally in the Bible. Yeah, there it is. And then we'll just stop here, but preoccupied with bringing in new members. The Cass cult had a forum, and it did want to bring in new members. To get into the higher ranks, you had to pay. Q was extremely interested in getting new members. It was basically ran like a marketing scheme across a bunch of platforms all at once. It looked like a concerted, thought out effort. And then, well, you know, Christianity, missionaries, Jesus himself giving the Great Commission at the end of some of the Gospels. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the video. I hope you liked hearing my perspective, and I hope you will share your own perspective down in the comments below. I really want to hear it. Don't be a jerk. Be nice. Be respectful to people. But I would like a discussion about this. I think it's really interesting how all this works together to help form how our brains work and how we perceive even our reality as it's happening based on these beliefs that we hold. And then that almost seems to lead us from one thing to the next, just kind of handing us off. But this is where I am now. I'm at a place where I just want everyone to be free completely free to make the right choices, free to make the wrong choices, free to just be exactly where they are in their faith journey at that moment, and for others to listen to them and just try to understand where they're at instead of being so judgmental all the time, because it's not helping anybody. And if you're someone who already has a tendency to be an overthinker, this stuff can really get to you, like it did to me. So for me, at least, I'm telling myself not to overthink too many things. It's probably not that deep, Katie, just kind of, anyway, thank you so much for being here. Please leave a like if you liked it, subscribe to my channel for more, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.